Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
Back in for the panel discussion. I invite both the speakers to turn their video on and their audios on if they can. And the panel discussion today is on awakening the feminine consciousness and how that helps in awakening the global spiritual consciousness. And I can also ask specific questions. So we'll just start discussing on this. So Lisi, my first question to you is you already talked about how yoga empowers people. Could we go into feminine consciousness? What does feminine consciousness mean to you? And if you could talk about what are some of the inherent strengths, what are perhaps the limitations, and how do we empower this feminine energy? You're on mute. Could you unmute yourself?
Sorry. So to me, the feminine consciousness represents a more yin element of nature. So the calming, the nurturing, the birthing. So it's about doing what needs to be done in order to bring new ideas, new life to the world. And that's, I guess a lot of nurturing and elements of nurturing required to bring those new things in.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes. We did hear you say, we did hear you talking about the feminine fragrance, which is more about nurturing and bringing life, giving birth. And then we lost you a little.
Yeah, but not just in a sort of manifest to, not just, humans or in a manifest way, but to new ideas, to welcome a consciousness of birth, to open things up a little bit more. So, recognizing the validity of all things and all people and all ideas, gentleness that encourages this sort of birth, if you like, and I guess also with a fierceness and a robustness that's required in order to carry things through and see things through to the end.
Thank you so much, Lise. Dr. Lucy, I wanted to ask you, you were talking about the Falun Gong, and you were talking about how this practice has transformed millions. Could you tell us something about the teachings that have been responsible for bringing this mass transformation among people? Is there a particular teaching in there that has really touched you that you would like to share?
Yeah, there's so many that touch me. I think the core teaching or the core principle of the teaching is what I mentioned earlier. It's the principle of the universe, the truthfulness, compassion, tolerance. So this practice is self-improvement system for both body and mind. So that's it's what really touched me and changed my life and the millions of people's life, because in Chinese culture we has a long tradition belief that body and mind are connected. So when and also Chinese people has a long tradition of looking for a path of spiritual awareness and consummation, or we call it perfection. So Chinese people always looking for a path to return to your true self. In Chinese culture, we believe that people on the earth are actually coming from the heaven. And we're here actually looking for a path to return to our original home. Yeah. So the Falun Dafa is one of the spiritual teaching that actually give millions of people this spiritual awareness to looking for their path of enlightenment and a return to their true self and, a home from heaven. But at the same time, we also experience the health benefits as a result because body and mind are connected. So when you can actually, because a lot of the disease physically are connected with your mental state, like stress, anger, hatred, jealousy. So a lot of these, ill mental state actually will be reflected in your physical health. When you can let go all these, depressions and stress and jealousy, this bad temper, and your heart become more calm, peaceful, harmonized with your families and workers, surroundings, and you find your body become a lot more harmonized with the universe, with the cosmos as well. Yeah, so that's why it attracted millions of people just by word of mouth. Like I practice, I feel really good about it. I introduced to my mom, and she actually, she used to have a tumor in her womb, and after she practiced the Falun Dafa meditation, the tumor was gone. So there's a lot of story like that. People practice about that. They really enjoy it. So they tell their parents, they tell their children, they tell their niece, their classmates, their friends. So that's how the Falun Dafa has spread to more than 70 million people in just 8 years. Not just because the health benefit, but also because people find that this really teach them a healthy way of life. So they can live in a healthy and happy life and has a more harmonized relationship with everyone in their work and life. I think that's the major transformation. Is the transformation start from our heart, our mind, and then your body also changed, and then your environment also changed to a positive direction. That's what I think what I learned. So that's why now for Falun Dafa practitioner, we know when you have a conflict with people, even like the human rights abuses happening in China, like I said, you never actually fight back with hatred or violence. You always stick to the principles, the truthfulness, compassion, tolerance. And there's never a case that the Falun Gong practitioner react with violence to police abuses. That shows the power of heart. Only when your heart are strong enough, you can actually let go of that and still, treat the people who mistreat you or hurt you with peace, with love, and with compassion. And that's the power of the teaching. I think that transform people's life, because it's really changed your heart, make you want to be a good person and love others, forgiving others, no matter what happened. I think this is very powerful. And that's also why even Communist Party is such a powerful government. It cannot stop this practice, because if people's heart has changed, they want to be a good person. So there's no political power, no regime can really force them to change again. That's really what I have learned from the experience in the last 20 years.
This is so inspiring. Yeah, this is so inspiring, Dr. Lucy. You all are, you've been teaching, this practice has been teaching compassion, and when it was faced with with the greatest tortures, they walked that, they walked that talk, they just didn't talk it, they actually walked on that. And this is so inspiring. And, the health benefits that you're mentioning are so important in this COVID times, especially, so I think my next question to you is that, when we think of health these days, I think at least for the past few decades, we think of science. And there's the spiritual practices have also shown on how it can transform and heal. Here in your practice, do you see an integration of science and spirituality, or is the science not caught up to the spirituality? How do you see this?
Very good question. Actually, for me, if you have a chance, have a read of the Falun Dafa teaching. So in the book, the teacher, the Mr. Li Hongzhi, actually clearly says that body and mind are connected. So like for science, oftentimes we think it's about the physical manifestation. Physics, chemistry, medical science. You see this instrument. And modern equipment, and we talk about spiritual, we talk about mind, and we think that's just something, we can't see, we can't feel. But in Falun Dafa teaching, we actually believe mind and body are connected. Material and spiritual, they're not separated. They're one. They're the two sides of the one coin. So, so actually in China, they actually have a department. I mean, this. I'll talk about this is before the suppression started, right? So China actually have a society they called Human Science Research Society that actually study the meditation like Falun Gong and other Qigong practice, and they actually find there's a lot of scientific evidence of the energy levels improvement after people doing the meditation. They also actually have done the medical research, has compared the two samples, the people who just doing the medical treatment, people who don't, take the medical treatment, also do the meditation like Falun Gong. They find that the group that doing the meditation practice, actually their health improvement, they look at the people from, for example, have high blood pressure. They find that those people who are actually doing the meditation like Falun Gong, their health improvement, the recovery rate from the high pressure, it's a lot more, 30% higher than the people who don't. There's actually independent researcher in South Australia. They also done some research on the health benefit of Falun Gong, and they find that it's very scientific. So it's So again, I just say there are a lot I can say, but overall, this is like the difference between Chinese medicine and Western medicine. So Western medicine is take a method of treat people after you get ill. Chinese medicine is take a more preventive approach, which is similar to the approach what Falun Gong is doing. It's like take a preventive approach, improve your immunity and your inner strength before you get ill, rather than treat it afterwards. I think this is more effective because you don't have to go through the suffering of the illness before you actually take some actions about it. So this is I think so I think from the current stage of the understanding, a lot of people still think spiritual or the meditation, it's still very like invisible things. It's not very scientific or even anti-science, but for me they're perfectly scientific. It's just because our current research of the science hasn't to that advanced level to really understand the inner connections between spiritual and your body, your physical health. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Lucy. I actually feel that, when you were describing, when you were talking, I could see that how y'all have married science and spirituality, because to show the effectiveness of the Falun Gong, you actually use science and you use all the scientific techniques to show that. So I can see the marriage. So that is really, really beautifully put. And, hopefully science will also elevate and it will meet spirituality somewhere, and it will be able to see the finer aspects and actually observe it scientifically. Thank you for saying that. And I loved how this, how Chinese medicine and especially this meditation technique, it focuses on health, not so much on disease. It focuses on health so that the disease does not even get a chance to come in, rather than wait till the disease has come. So this is very hopeful, and it is very empowering. It empowers us to be in health rather than to go into this, to start treating when you are in this disempowered state of disease. So thank you so much, Dr. Lucy, for sharing this. Lisa, I had a last question for you. You have been, you've been talking, we've talked about how yoga is beyond the poses, how it is about self-awareness, how it can empower, how it can give you choice by making you more aware. You've talked about the teachings of yoga as a framework for life with less suffering. It seems that right now, especially in the middle of pandemic, there is tremendous suffering. How does yoga help us to live a life of less suffering and maybe more empowerment?
Well, I could sort of weave in a little bit of your last question to this as well, and
yes,
the theme of the
please do.
Yeah, the theme of the terms of awakening divine feminine consciousness, because really all of these practices, I see all of these practices, whether it's Dr. Lucy's practice or whether it's yoga or whether it's, Tai Chi, all the ancient wisdoms, they're all teaching the same thing really, which is compassion and how to love ourselves. And we don't love ourselves, this practice of, learning who we are and loving ourselves the way we are. And so it's about a connection, and the way that we do that differs slightly in the different traditions, but meditation is the one. And I feel I might just say this because there might be some people watching that will be, I tried meditation and I can't do it, and they have some idea that it's something out of their reach. And I think in the world where we are now, at this stage of our evolving, it's enough to just sit and not expect anything else, but just make time and discipline. And when I say discipline, I don't mean anything harsh. I don't mean any imposing or inflicting. I just mean, let's give ourselves 10 minutes every day to just sit and see what happens, see what comes up. An introduction into meditation, and not try to expect that there's some your mind's going to go blank, or you'll have no thoughts, or all these things that people have expectations of themselves in terms of what meditation is. But it's really ultimately the idea is that we're trying to connect to ourselves, and to try and connect to ourselves is that divine that feminine consciousness, because it's the intuitive, it's the compassionate, it's the creative, and we can't reach that state until we're connected to ourselves. And the idea of having some expectation of what meditation is and it being beyond our reach is the first impediment. So just to help people, and to answer your question as well, really that's what helps me the most is just sitting. I do breathing exercises as well, so that's part of yoga, depending on how I am, but usually I do a breathing which is alternate nodding in the science world. They have done science studies on it, and really I feel like science is, this idea of empowerment. Some people need the science to show them that something is good, and others who are able to connect to themselves and know themselves are empowered to know it's good for them just because they know themselves, they know their body. They don't need to read a review on, what it's done for these people or these people, right? And so while it has its place and it's helpful, ultimately, this idea of divine energy and feminine energy is to actually be so empowered that we don't need anything from the outside necessarily to confirm or to tell us. We already know ourselves well enough that we are doing the things that serve us to live a healthy life. Like what Dr. Lucy was saying, it's why wait till you get sick? Start practicing now. Start doing things that support your health and your wellness now. Because, I know everybody is different, but for me, I just don't see the point in otherwise. I don't see the point. It's like yoga isn't about the poses. It's about creating and honoring, you know, nature and what we've been given, just the way we are, complete and perfect and whole, just the way we are, different and the same to the next person. All of us are the same and all of us are different. Another lovely gift of yoga is that everything is a paradox, especially, you know, all the deep truths are paradoxes. So I think feminine energy is connecting to nature. Go way, way back before the pharmaceutical companies paying scientists to come up with special reviews and proof about this, that, and the other. You know, nobody knows nowadays what you can believe because we've all been, everything has been tarnished. So really, the best judge is yourself. And so to create and cultivate practices that help you tune into what is the way to go, I think. And I have heard of Falun Gong, and I've actually bought the book some years ago. So now I'm re-inspired to go and read it again because it sounds, you know.
So wonderful. That is so wonderful. And, you know,
At the heart, it's the same thing. Exciting.
That is so beautiful, Lise. You know, like that is sometimes the purpose of the panel discussions, that new collaborations, new cross inspirations happen, because as you said, we're all, you know, sometimes it seems like we are doing paradoxical things, but these at a higher level, these paradoxes unite and they no longer contradict, but they actually unite. And this is what I've been hearing for the past 4 days from so many speakers, that we may all come from different points, but then we all, you know, as we rise higher, we've all become one. And you know what I loved? I really loved what you said, that, you know, sometimes we have to be the scientists ourselves and we have to see what works for us. You know, there is outside validation, but sometimes, you know, we just check whether it's benefiting us and become the scientists ourselves. And meditate and the scientist meets in ourselves sometimes.
Yes.
So thank you so much. So thank you so much, Lucy and Lise. I request. Yes, Dr. Lucy. You were saying something?
Oh, I think I like what Liz shared as well. And I agree with what you shared. A lot of us, what we're doing, maybe on a different path, different form, but you know, there are a lot of common shared values and principles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well
Beautiful,
said.
beautiful. We are so grateful to have had you. I request the technical team to give a certificate as a token of our gratitude to Lise and to Dr. Lucy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is to
Thank you. It was lovely to hear. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So this is a certificate of our gratitude and appreciation for coming in and sharing the wisdom of of Falun Gong, and really for inspiring us. And we will do our best to spread awareness about this, and hopefully this will empower more of them as they go through difficult times. Thank you so much, Dr. Lucy.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa, and everyone. I look forward to see you.
Thank you. And this is a certificate for our token of appreciation for LISE HEARNS. Lise, I really loved how your topic was not doing yoga, but living yoga in its entirety, in its completeness, and really living it so complete within ourselves and in our surroundings that we come to unity. So thank you so much, Lise, for joining us.
Best of luck with the rest of the conference.
Thank you so much. With all this love and wisdom, I close this session. Thank you so much. We will have a musical interlude and then we will start the next session. Thank you. Deep pranams.